Hello, ladies and gents. Today we're going to take a look at how to use Excel to calculate some simple descriptive stats. I'm also going to show you how to use the Descriptive Stats tool, which is found in the Analysis Toolpak. So let's take a look at, I'm going to use actually the Stats 101 data. This is just a random data set which shows, it's actually not real data, but it shows the gender, age, eye color, and so on like that for a fictitious Stats 101 class. I'm just going to make a copy of this. I've actually saved this as a file called temp stats1, so you want to do that whenever you're doing a working copy so you're not messing up the original file. And then go down to the bottom here and find the tab that has the original data. And then I'm just going to right click on that and choose Move or Copy. Click the little copy button, and then I'm just going to press OK. So now I've actually got a copy of the original data here. So the two tabs are exactly the same here, but this one is going to be the one that I'm going to actually do all the work on. Now, what I usually do here is get rid of the columns that I don't need. So in this particular video, I'm just going to analyze the Math 30 column, this one right here. So what I typically do is I always keep the respondent column, and that's because you might have a data set where there's some holes in here. So for instance, if there was this value missing right here, then it's usually not a problem if you know what you're doing, but it can be a problem if you're sorting and grabbing different ranges to do calculations on and so on. And so I always keep the respondent column because everybody has a respondent number. I'm going to get rid of the other columns, so I'm going to click on the B, drag across C, D, E, F, G, right click, delete, and then I'm going to do the same for C to H. And that's going to leave me then with just two columns, the respondent and the Math 30. I'm not going to be doing any analysis using the respondent column, but just the Math 30 column. Let me make this just a little bigger here. All right, now, suppose I want to calculate a couple things here. So I want to look at the average of the Math 30 marks, and I'll take a look at the standard deviation as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a formula right here. So let me just paint that yellow for a moment there, and then later we'll take off that color. It's always important that when you're starting a formula that you know which cell you have selected, because it's very easy to be moving around and looking at the data and maybe end up right here in B9 and then start making your formula. And you don't want to do that because you're actually inside the column that you want to be analyzing. So make sure that you know which cell that you have selected here. All right, now if you've used the average formula a lot here, then you know how the thing is built, and you can just simply go in and type equals average. But I want to show you where you're going to find this in the menus up here. So if you go up to the top, you'll see the Home, Insert, Draw, Page Layout, and then the Formulas menu right here. By the way, I'm using a Macintosh, but this is pretty much exactly the same here using a PC. And then we're going to go to More Functions and Statistical. And there's a whole bunch of really good stuff in here. Now, if you've been told to calculate the mean, you might look down here and you won't see the word mean. You'll see median and mins and maxes and things like that. But another name for the arithmetic mean is the average. One thing to note here is generally the easiest formula or the best formula to use is the one that doesn't have a bunch of additional stuff. So use the average, not the average A function or the average if or average ifs. Now those are very useful functions, and there may be places where in the future we talk about those things, but just for a simple average, we're just going to use the average function. So you click on that, And what that does is that opens up a little dialog box. Now in a Mac, it's over here on the right. In a PC, it'll be probably floating in the middle, but it'll be basically set up exactly the same. And it's going to give you then a spot here where you can specify the range that you want to calculate the average for. Now, it made a guess here and it's wrong. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go here and I'm going to click in cell B2. I'm not going to include the title. We'll talk about how you include the title when we get into using the Descriptive Stats tool. But for a simple average, you just simply click on the first number and then holding down the left mouse button, I'm just going to drag down until I've got all 100 numbers here. And so there we go right there. If you take a look over here on the side, you'll see it says B2 colon B101. So that means that it's going to average all the numbers in that range. So I can just simply push done or just push OK or enter on your keyboard. And it gives me a range, or sorry, an average up here, which is 75.38. All right. Let me just take that yellow color off for a second here. The last thing I want you to do for the average function here then is I also want to see the formula that you've used for that. So I'd like you to type in the formula right here. Now, the best thing to do actually is to go and click back in here where you've got the answer. And then you go up into the formula bar up here and just simply click, drag across to select it. I'm going to copy. And then I'm going to actually push escape. This is really important that you do this. So I'm going to push escape here to get outside of the cell, move over, and then I'm going to paste. And again, you can paste using, copy and paste using a Control C and a Control V if you want, or Windows C and Windows V if this is a Mac. Now, what I've done here is I've got the number 75.38 again. And so then what I do is I go up into the formula bar, and just before the equal sign, I'm going to type an apostrophe. The apostrophe on my keyboard is right next to the Enter key. And then I'm going to push Enter. Now, you'll notice actually that the apostrophe disappears. In Excel, it's known as a text justification character. And so formulas always start with an equal. And if you, or a minus, or generally those ones. But generally, they start with an equal. And so if you were to try to type this as text, it would actually then recognize it as a formula here. So the way that we make it text then is we put in that little left justification character, which is the apostrophe, and it actually shows up now as text. So that's what we've got. Let's do the same with the standard deviation. And I'm going to go up here then to formulas, and then go to more functions, statistical. And if you go down here, you'll see that there's a bunch of different standard deviations here. There's standard deviation .p, which is a population standard deviation. And then .s is the sample standard deviation. So remember, the formulas are slightly different for those. They'll give you different answers. And so you want to check to see, are you dealing with a sample or with a population? And that is something that's going to be told to you in the assignment, or when you set up your particular project, you'll know that it's a sample. Don't worry about these guys, which are the standard deviation A and PA. So we're just going to be using these two guys here. And let's say this is a sample. So I'm going to use this one, the standard deviation .s. And it's set up exactly the same way. What I do is I just simply click, drag down here to highlight all the way down to B101. Or I could just type it in over here on the right. And then just push done or push enter. And we end up with this right here. By the way, I like it if these are to a couple of decimal places. So if you go to the Home tab there'll be a little increase or decrease decimal places here. So we can actually take those to 2 decimal places like that. All right, click on the standard deviation, go up here to the top, copy, press escape to get out of the formula, move over and paste. And then go and in the formula bar here, in front of the equal sign, put in a little apostrophe. And there we go. Now, if this were an assignment, what I would do is I would copy these 6 cells, I guess, and then I would just copy them, move over into a Word document, and I would paste them. And so it shows me that it's the average, the answer, and then the formula that I used in order to get those. And you can do that for any function. As I mentioned before, you can just simply type these out, and so you could simply put in equals average, and you'll see that it prompts you with a little thing down here saying, well, what's your first number or what's your first range? And then we could go and we could highlight all the way down and so on like this, and just push enter. That's the wrong answer because I didn't go all the way down, but that's how you can simply do it without actually going into the menus here. All right, the next thing I want to show you is that you can get all of the main descriptive functions by using something called the Analysis Toolpak. And so the first thing that you have to do is to add it in. Now, if you have a computer at home, you've got Excel at home, then all you have to do is add it in once, and then every time that you bring up Excel, it'll be in there. If you're using the school computer, let's say you're doing this at the college, or let's say that you're doing it at home, but you're actually using VMware to go into Horizon VMware to go into the college system and actually do your stuff then remotely, but still using the college system, which you can do. In that particular case, then you'll need to add it in every time. So let me show you how to do that. I'm actually going to start with the PC version. So I've got that on the next page over here. That's the wrong key. How about that one? Good. Okay, so I've actually moved over to, I'm accessing this online through VMware, and this is the PC version, which is what the college has. So I'm working off the college system now. And if you go to File, and then down here to Options, there's something here called Add-ins. And right now you'll see actually there's this thing called the Analysis Toolpak. You'll see it down here in the inactive applications. And so I've got it actually active. So let's say it was inactive. I would press Go down here. I don't need to click on it, by the way. I can just press Go. And then this little dialog box comes up that looks like this. And you'll notice that I've got the Analysis Toolpak selected. So that's just a check mark. Don't worry about the Analysis Toolpak VBA. That's for advanced programming. So you only need the Analysis Toolpak, and you press OK. And then you'll find it on the Data tab, the Data ribbon, at the far end here. So on the far right, you'll see the Data Analysis Toolpak, and that will open up, and you'll see here something called Descriptive Stats. So it looks like that. Now, I'm going to go and do this on a Mac, because that's where my data is, and it's a little bit easier in terms of going back and forth for me in this case. So I'm going to go back here. So I'm working actually on my home computer now using Mac. And the only thing you need to remember is that it's in a slightly different place. So if I go up to the very top here to the menus and click Data, there's something down here called, Tools. There we go. Yeah. If I click on Tools and then go to Excel Add-ins, then you'll see it brings up something here, and the Analysis Toolpak is checked. So I've already got it added in. Don't worry about these other ones here. These are just some other ones that I've got that I've added in here. So I press OK. I've already done that. And just like in the PC version, if I go to the Data ribbon, you'll see that there's the Data Analysis Toolpak. So it's exactly the same from that point on, whether it's a Mac or whether it's a PC. So I go to Data Analysis, and then I scroll up to Descriptive Statistics and press OK. And this has the same parts to it as the PC version. It's just formatted a little differently, but it's exactly the same stuff. So all you really need here is to choose the input range. And the input range is going to be those Math 30 marks, but I want you to also include the title at the top. So in this particular case then, I'm starting actually not in B2, but in B1, and going all the way down to B101. So there we have it there. Tell it that you've got labels in the first row. So I'm going to click this little box here, labels in the first row. And then down on the left-hand side here, I need to click the summary statistics. Now, later on in the course, towards the end of the course, we'll be talking about confidence levels. There is this thing here for confidence level for the mean, but I'll probably ask you to build that by hand. So you'll actually never have to check that. So all you have to do is to select this guy, which is the summary statistics. If I press OK now, it'll actually put the answer on a blank page. What I'm going to do, and by the way, which is fine, it's not a problem, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to click in the output range, and then make sure that your cursor clicks in this particular box that says the output range. Depending on the version of Excel and which machine that you're using, sometimes it goes back up here to the input range. And so make sure that you're actually in this box here that says the output range. And all I need to do then is to find some place on my spreadsheet here. I'm going to scroll back up. You notice that I was down at the very bottom of the data there. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm just going to find a place here that maybe it'll be right here that has nothing below it, or at least a good dozen empty cells here, and nothing beside it, or at least about 3 empty columns. So I've chosen this cell right here. In this particular case, it's F8. And just to make sure that I've got space underneath and space to the right. So that'll be the upper left of the output table. And I just press OK. And this is what it gives me. It gives me the data that looks like this. What I'll probably want to do is I might need to make this, in this case, column F. Sometimes you find that these numbers or these labels are truncated. Mine was actually fairly big there, so I go between the F and the G and I just double click, and it'll take you to the size that you need here. It's actually the size of this guy because I had something up top here. So you could make it a little smaller if you wanted to. The other thing I want to do here, though, is I want to make sure that all of the numbers which are decimal values are rounded to 2 decimal places. So I'm going to hold down the Control key, or on a Mac it's the Control window, I think. Yeah, Control and window together. On a PC it's just the Control key, and then I click on all of the numbers here which are in decimal values, and then I let go to the Home tab, and then I'm going to decrease the number of decimal places down to 2. All right, the last thing here is that, let's say I was asking you to find out whether the data are skewed or not. Now, there is a measure of skewness here, but this particular measure here actually uses a formula which we're not going to be getting into. So the way that we calculated skewness was just the mean minus the median. So what you would do is just actually highlight mean and its number and go up here and just color it. So I'm just going to color it yellow. And then I'm going to go down to the median and color that. So of course you can use this for any type of problem. Here is just highlight the cells, maybe color them yellow or make them a red text or something like that so that they are in a format that you like. Now I've got everything that I need, and I can just highlight what I need here, copy, paste that into a Word document. If you're calculating the measure of skewness here, you would actually then calculate the mean minus the median, which turns out to be, it looks like it's slightly negative here, 75.8 or 38 minus 76.5, and just give that as an answer. So that is it. That's how we use some simple functions in Excel as well as the Descriptive Stats tool using the Analysis Toolpak, and I'm going to end the lesson here. Thanks for listening.